My name is Sophia Mitchell, and I'm 34 years old. I just returned home from burying my husband Thomas after his sudden death in a car accident. Our seemingly perfect 8-year marriage was marked by one struggle: infertility. Something felt off during the funeral. My sister Natalie kept avoiding my gaze. As I slumped on my couch surrounded by sympathy flowers, the doorbell rang. There stood Natalie with her 7-year-old son Noah, her face a strange mixture of determination and guilt. I had no idea my world was about to implode. If you're watching this from somewhere warm, take a moment to drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. Hit that subscribe button and like this video if you've ever had your reality shattered in an instant. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. Thomas and I were college sweethearts. We met during sophomore year at Boston University when he accidentally spilled coffee on my economics textbook. He insisted on replacing it and asked me out for coffee to make up for the incident. His blue eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, and I was smitten from that first awkward conversation. We dated throughout college, and he proposed the night of our graduation with a vintage ring that had belonged to his grandmother. Our wedding was everything I dreamed of: a summer ceremony in the botanical gardens, surrounded by friends and family. My sister Natalie was my maid of honor, though she seemed distant throughout the wedding planning. I chalked it up to a recent breakup and focused on my happiness. If only I had paid more attention to the signs. We settled in a charming colonial house in the Boston suburbs. Thomas excelled as an investment banker, climbing the corporate ladder with impressive speed. I built my interior design business from scratch, eventually working with some of Boston's elite clientele. From the outside, our life looked perfect: dinner parties with friends, vacation photos from exotic locations, and a beautiful home that I had lovingly designed to be our sanctuary. But underneath that polished exterior, we struggled with the one thing we wanted most: a child. After trying naturally for 2 years, we consulted fertility specialists. The next year was a blur of hormones, injections, doctor appointments, and crushing disappointment. 3 failed rounds of IVF left us emotionally and financially drained. Each negative pregnancy test felt like a personal failure, though Thomas assured me it wasn't. "We'll find a way to be parents, Soph," he'd say, holding me while I cried. "Whether it's more treatments, surrogacy, or adoption, we'll have our family." I didn't notice when Thomas began to change. The signs were subtle at first. Working later than usual, taking more business trips, checking his phone constantly, and password protecting his laptop. When I asked about these changes, he blamed work stress and a demanding new client. I believed him because I needed to believe that something in my life was solid and true. The morning of the accident still plays in my mind on repeat. We argued over breakfast about trying another round of IVF. I wanted to try one more time. Thomas suggested we consider other options. "Maybe this is the universe telling us to explore different paths to parenthood," he said, not meeting my eyes. "That's easy for you to say," I snapped. "You're not the one whose body keeps failing." He flinched at my words. "That's not fair, Sophia. This has been hard on both of us." "Then why does it feel like you're giving up?" I asked. He grabbed his briefcase, voice tight with emotion. "I'm not giving up. I just think we need to be realistic about our options. We'll talk more tonight." Those were the last words my husband ever said to me. 3 hours later, my phone rang. Thomas had been in a fatal car accident on the interstate. A truck driver had fallen asleep at the wheel, crossing the median and hitting Thomas's car head-on. He died instantly. The next days passed in a haze of disbelief and administrative tasks. Identifying his body, making funeral arrangements, notifying friends and family. I moved through these duties like a robot, unable to process that my husband was really gone. My mother stayed with me, fielding calls and visitors while I stared blankly at the walls of our home. The funeral was a blur of somber faces and hushed condolences. I noticed odd moments that didn't register fully at the time. Thomas's colleagues exchanging uncomfortable glances when offering their sympathies, his parents being unusually attentive to my sister's son Noah, and Natalie herself keeping a noticeable distance from me throughout the service. It was Noah who first gave me pause. At 7 years old, He was the spitting image of Thomas as a child, the same cowlick in his sandy brown hair, identical dimples, and those distinctive blue eyes that I'd fallen in love with. I'd always thought Noah resembled our side of the family, but seeing him in his little black suit at the funeral, the resemblance to Thomas was uncanny. When I tried to speak with Natalie, she made excuses and slipped away. Her husband Brian wasn't at the funeral. They had separated nearly a year ago, another detail I'd been too wrapped up in my own life to properly acknowledge. As I received guests at our home after the service, I overheard snippets of conversations that seemed odd. Thomas was always so proud of the boy, one of his colleagues murmured to another. At least he took responsibility, even if the situation was complicated, came the reply. When I approached, they quickly changed the subject, offering generic condolences that felt hollow. What boy were they talking about? We didn't have children. The question nagged at me, but grief clouded my ability to connect the dots that were right in front of me. After everyone left, I sat alone in our living room, surrounded by flower arrangements and catering leftovers, feeling the crushing weight of silence in a house that would never again hear Thomas's laugh or footsteps. That's when the doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Natalie and Noah on my doorstep, about to shatter what remained of my world. "Can we come in?" Natalie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Noah clutched a small toy car in his hand, looking up at me with those hauntingly familiar blue eyes. I stepped aside, allowing them into the home that now felt like a museum of my former life. Natalie knelt down to Noah's level, smoothing his hair back from his forehead, a gesture I'd seen Thomas do countless times when deep in thought. "Sweetie, why don't you go play in the living room for a bit while Aunt Sophia and I talk?" She handed him her iPad. "There's a new game I downloaded for you." Noah nodded and scampered off, leaving Natalie and me standing in the foyer, an uncomfortable silence stretching between us. I led her to the kitchen, as far from Noah as possible while still being in the same house. "What's going on, Nat?" I asked, exhaustion evident in my voice. "You've been avoiding me all day." Natalie sank into a chair at the kitchen island, her hands trembling as she placed her purse in front of her. "I don't know how to say this, Sophia." Her eyes filled with tears. "I've rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times, but now that I'm here, something cold settled in my stomach. Just say it." She took a deep breath, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. "Noah is Thomas's son." The kitchen seemed to tilt around me. "What are you talking about?" 8 years ago, when you and Thomas broke up for those 3 months before your engagement." Her voice broke. "We slept together. Once. It was a terrible mistake." I was heartbroken over my breakup with Justin. Thomas was devastated about your fight. My mind flashed back to that time, Thomas, and I had a massive argument about our future. I wanted to move in together before considering marriage. He had unexpectedly proposed instead. When I asked for time to think, he interpreted it as rejection and broke things off. For 3 months, we didn't speak. Eventually, we reconciled, and he proposed again. This time, I said yes immediately. "You're lying," I whispered, though in my heart, I was already connecting the timing, the resemblance, Thomas's mysterious behavior. Natalie shook her head, reaching into her purse. She pulled out a folder and slid it across the countertop to me. "I wish I were." With shaking hands, I opened the folder. Inside was a DNA test confirming Thomas's paternity, dated 6 years ago. There were also photos I'd never seen. Thomas holding an infant Noah in the hospital, Thomas at what appeared to be Noah's first birthday, Thomas and Noah at a park I didn't recognize. All secret moments from a secret life. "He found out when Noah was 1, Natalie explained, her voice hollow. "I didn't tell him at first. When I discovered I was pregnant, you two had already reconciled and were planning your wedding. I told everyone Brian was the father, and he agreed to raise Noah as his own." "Brian knows?" The betrayal was multiplying, fracturing my reality. "Yes. It's why we separated. He tried, Sophia, he really did. But every time he looked at Noah, he saw Thomas." She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. When Noah was diagnosed with that rare blood condition at 13 months, they needed family medical history. That's when I had to tell Thomas. The room spun as pieces fell into place. Thomas's business trips to New York, where Natalie lived. His unexplained absences on certain weekends. The secret phone calls. The password-protected laptop. He's been part of Noah's life since then, Natalie continued. Monthly visits, video calls, financial support. He wanted to tell you so many times, Sophia. Especially when you were going through fertility treatments. He felt so guilty. Stop. I stood up, knocking over my chair. You've both been lying to my face for 7 years while I've been trying desperately to have a child with him? My voice rose with each word. Do you have any idea what those failed IVF treatments did to me? What they cost us, not just financially, but emotionally. And all this time, he had a son? With my sister. Noah appeared in the doorway, his little face concerned. Mom? Why is Aunt Sophia yelling? Natalie quickly composed herself. It's okay, honey. Grown-up talk. Go back to your game. After Noah reluctantly left, I turned back to Natalie, my voice low and dangerous. How dare you come into my house the day of my husband's funeral to tell me this? I didn't want to, she said. But there's more you need to know, and with the will being read next week. The will? I laughed bitterly. Let me guess, he left something to his secret son. Natalie's silence confirmed my sarcastic question. The floor seemed to drop from beneath me. You said Thomas wanted to tell me, I said, gripping the counter for support. When exactly was he planning this grand confession? The day of the accident, Natalie whispered. He called me that morning, said you had argued about trying another round of IVF. He couldn't keep lying to you. He was going to tell you everything that night. My legs gave out, and I sank to the kitchen floor, my back against the cabinets. All those years of marriage, building a life together, trying to create a family, it had all been built on lies. Who else knows? I asked, staring at my wedding ring. His parents. They've been involved in Noah's life too. A few of his close friends from work. Natalie looked miserable. I'm so sorry, Sophia. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said, my voice eerily calm as shock settled in. Both of you betrayed me in the worst possible way. And now he's dead, and you're here, what, claiming your son's inheritance? It's not like that, Natalie protested. Thomas wanted Noah provided for, but he loved you, Sophia. He truly did. Get out, I said, still sitting on the floor. Take your son, Thomas's son, and get out of my house. Sophia, please get out. I screamed, finally breaking. Get out, get out, get out. Natalie gathered Noah quickly and left, the boy looking confused and frightened. As the door closed behind them, I pulled my knees to my chest and sobbed. For my husband, for our marriage, for the children we never had, and for the life I now realized had been an elaborate fiction. 3 days after Natalie's revelation, she returned. This time, I was slightly more prepared, having spent the intervening time alternating between devastating grief and white-hot rage. I let her in wordlessly, noting she had come alone. Where's Noah? I asked, my voice hoarse from crying. With my neighbor. I thought it would be better to talk without him present. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing the same sweatshirt as 3 days ago. I led her to the living room, where I'd cleared away most of the funeral flowers. Their cloying sweetness had become unbearable, a constant reminder of death and deception. I know you probably never want to see me again, Natalie began, but there's something you need to see before the official reading of the will next week. From her bag, she pulled out a legal document and placed it on the coffee table between us. Thomas's lawyer, Martin Goldstein, gave me this copy. He doesn't know I'm showing you early. I stared at the document without touching it. Why would his lawyer give you a copy of my husband's will? Because Noah is named in it, she said quietly. And Martin thought I should be prepared for your reaction. With trembling hands, I finally picked up the document. It was dated just 2 weeks before Thomas's death, our recently updated will. As I read through the legal jargon, I felt the blood drain from my face. Thomas had left 50% of his estate to me, his wife. The other 50% was left in trust for Noah Mitchell, identified clearly as my biological son with Natalie Mitchell. The trust would provide for Noah's education, healthcare, and general welfare until he turned 25, at which point he would gain full control of his inheritance. Our house, our dream home that we had spent years renovating, was to be sold, with proceeds split according to the same 50-50 division. Thomas's life insurance policy, a separate $2 million policy I knew nothing about, named Noah as the sole beneficiary. Attached to the will was a sealed letter addressed to me in Thomas's handwriting. I tore it open, desperate for some explanation that could make sense of this nightmare. My dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, two things have happened. I'm gone, and you've learned the truth about Noah. I can only imagine the pain and betrayal you're feeling right now, and knowing I'm the cause of it makes this the hardest letter I've ever had to write. What happened with Natalie was a terrible mistake we both regretted immediately. When we reconciled, I wanted to tell you everything, but I was terrified of losing you again. Then as years passed, it seemed impossible to confess without destroying our marriage. When I learned about Noah, I made another devastating choice, to be part of his life in secret rather than risk losing you. Each lie built upon the last until I was living two separate lives, loving my son from a distance while building a future with you. Watching you suffer through our fertility struggles while knowing I had a child was the deepest form of torture. I came close to telling you so many times, especially after each failed IVF attempt. My cowardice has hurt everyone I love most in this world. I've updated this will because I finally decided to tell you everything. By the time you read this, you should already know the full truth. I hope somehow, someday, you can find it in your heart to forgive me, though I know I don't deserve it. I've provided for Noah because he's my son and it's my responsibility. But I've also provided for you because you're the love of my life, despite my inexcusable betrayal. I'm so sorry, Sophia. I failed you in the worst possible way. Forever yours. Thomas. I read the letter twice, then looked up at Natalie, who was watching me cautiously. He was going to tell me, I said flatly. But he died first. Natalie nodded. The morning of the accident, he called me. He was adamant that the lies had to stop. I laughed bitterly. How convenient for both of you that he died before having to face the consequences of your actions. That's not fair, Sophia. This has been fair. I interrupted, my voice rising. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I have to sell my home? That I spent years trying to have a baby with a man who already had a child with my sister? That everyone around me, including my in-laws, knew about this betrayal except me. I threw the will across the room. Is it fair that even in death, Thomas is still lying to me, claiming I already know the full truth, when he died before telling me anything? Natalie flinched but held her ground. Noah is innocent in all this. He's just a little boy who lost his father. A father he knew and loved, I countered. I lost a husband I never really knew at all. The will is legally binding, Sophia. I'm not here to fight you, I'm trying to prepare you before the official reading. How considerate, I said sarcastically. What do you want from me, Natalie? My blessing? Forgiveness? To welcome you and Noah into my life with open arms after you've destroyed everything I thought I knew. Eventually, yes, she admitted quietly. Not now, but someday. Noah has lost enough. He shouldn't lose his aunt too. I stood up, signaling the end of our conversation. I need you to leave. Tell your lawyer I'll see him at the official reading. As Natalie reached the door, she turned back. He did love you, Sophia. Whatever else Thomas did wrong, his love for you is real. After she left, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the remnants of a life built on lies. The financial implications of Thomas's will were devastating. I would lose our home, half of our savings, investments we'd made together. But the emotional toll was immeasurable. Everything I thought I knew about my husband, my marriage, my future, had been a carefully constructed fiction. That night, I opened a bottle of Thomas's expensive scotch, the one he saved for special occasions, and drank until the pain dulled enough for me to fall into a dreamless sleep on the couch, still clutching his lying letter in my hand. The morning after learning about the will, I woke on the couch with a pounding headache and an empty scotch bottle on the floor beside me. For a blissful moment, I didn't remember. Then reality crashed back, and I rushed to the bathroom, heaving until there was nothing left but bitter bile. Looking at myself in the mirror afterward, I hardly recognized the woman staring back at me, hollow-eyed, pale, with tangled hair and yesterday's makeup smeared across my face. This broken person couldn't be Sophia Mitchell, the put-together interior designer whose life others envied. But then, that woman had never really existed. She was as much a fiction as my supposedly perfect marriage. Something snapped inside me. I stormed into our bedroom, my bedroom now, and tore the wedding photo from the wall, hurling it across the room. The satisfying crash of breaking glass propelled me forward. I pulled photo albums from shelves, ripped framed pictures from walls, yanked open drawers filled with Thomas's belongings. 8 years of memories, all tainted by lies. Each smiling photo a mockery. Every gift from Thomas now felt like a consolation prize. Sorry I can't give you a child, but here's a bracelet. Sorry I'm sleeping with your sister, but here's a trip to Bali. I was in the middle of emptying his closet, the scent of his cologne sending me into a fresh frenzy, when my phone rang. I ignored it. It rang again immediately. Then a text from my best friend Melissa. Asterisk, I'm outside your door. Open up, or I'm using my emergency key. Asterisk moments later, Melissa found me sitting in a pile of Thomas's shredded clothes, scissors in hand, surrounded by broken glass and torn photographs. Oh, Sophia, she whispered, carefully making her way through the debris to sit beside me. She gently took the scissors from my hand. Talk to me. The whole story poured out in between sobs: the funeral, Natalie's revelation, Noah's paternity, the will, the letter, everything. Melissa listened without interruption, her arm around my shoulders. I'll kill her, Melissa said when I finally finished. Both of them, actually, but since Thomas already took care of himself. Despite everything, I let out a small laugh that quickly turned into more tears. Come on, Melissa said, helping me to my feet. First, shower. Then food. Then we figure this out together. After I'd showered and changed, Melissa made me eat a sandwich while she cleaned up the worst of the destruction. She didn't try to save the photos or Thomas's things, seeming to understand that I couldn't bear to look at them. We should check his office, Melissa suggested after I'd eaten. If he was hiding a child, who knows what else he was hiding? Thomas's home office had always been his private space. I rarely entered it, respecting his need for a professional zone in our home. Now, that consideration seemed laughable. We spent hours going through his desk, file cabinets, and bookshelves. Hidden in a locked drawer, Melissa used a screwdriver to break it open, was a folder labeled simply N. Inside were more photos of Noah at various ages, birthday cards signed Love, Daddy in Thomas's handwriting, report cards, artwork, a documentation of a childhood Thomas had participated in while living with me. There were also records of money transfers to Natalie's account, regular monthly payments that had increased over the years as Noah grew. These weren't hidden in our finances because Thomas had a separate account I knew nothing about. Most devastating was a small notebook filled with Thomas's handwriting, a journal of sorts where he'd recorded thoughts about Noah, their time together, and his growing guilt. April 15th, Noah lost his first tooth today. Wanted to put it under his pillow for the tooth fairy. Natalie sent a photo. Sophia was talking about trying IVF again. The guilt is unbearable. Asterisk June 3rd, Noah's kindergarten graduation. Had to lie to Sophia about a client meeting in New York. Watched my son accept his little diploma with his mother while my wife thinks I'm working. What kind of man am I? Asterisk September 8th, Noah started first grade. He's struggling with reading. I suggested a tutor, but can't be the one to help him. Sophia is decorating what would have been our nursery as a home office instead. She cried when she thought I wasn't home. Asterisk December 24th, spent Christmas Eve morning with Noah. He loved the science kit. Had to rush back to Boston for dinner with Sophia and her parents. Living two lives is destroying me. Need to find courage to tell the truth. Asterisk the last entry was dated the day before the accident. I can't do this anymore. The lying is killing me. Sophia deserves to know the truth, and Noah deserves a father who acknowledges him publicly. Tomorrow, I'll tell Sophia everything, whatever the consequences. This double life ends now. Melissa held me as I broke down again, the confirmation of Thomas's intentions somehow making his death even more painful. He had finally decided to do the right thing, only to die before he could. Over the next few weeks, I spiraled further. I ignored calls from family, friends, clients. I canceled meetings with the few clients I had and referred them to colleagues. I stopped answering the door. Natalie tried to contact me several times, but I blocked her number. The official reading of the will was a nightmare. Sitting in a sterile conference room with Natalie, Thomas's parents, who couldn't meet my eyes, and a few executives from Thomas's firm who were named as trustees for various charitable donations. The lawyer, Martin Goldstein, read the same document Natalie had already shown me, but hearing it officially made it real in a way that twisted the knife deeper. Thomas's mother tried to approach me afterward, tears in her eyes. "Sophia, please, we need to talk, you knew," I said, my voice ice cold. "All those years, watching me go through fertility treatments, you knew your son had a child with my sister." "We wanted to tell you," she said weakly. "We begged Thomas to tell you. But you didn't tell me either," I pointed out. "You played along with the charade, welcomed me into your family while keeping this secret." "Noah is our grandson," Thomas's father interjected, joining his wife. "We couldn't risk losing him." "So you risked losing me instead," I said. "Congratulations. You have." I walked away, ignoring their calls. I consulted my own lawyer, who confirmed what I already knew. The will was likely valid and contestable only with significant legal fees and low chances of success. Thomas had covered his bases legally, ensuring his son would be provided for even if it meant appending my entire life. As weeks turned into months, I barely functioned. Melissa regularly checked on me, sometimes staying overnight when she was worried about my state of mind. I lost weight, slept irregularly, and drank too much. My beautiful home, once my pride and joy, became a prison of memories I couldn't escape. One particularly low night, I found myself looking at old photos on my phone, happier times that now seemed like scenes from someone else's life. I stumbled across a video I'd forgotten, taken during our last anniversary trip to Cape Cod. Thomas on the beach, laughing as waves crashed around his legs, calling to me to join him. His smile, that smile I'd loved for so many years, now looked like a stranger's. "Who are you?" I whispered to his image. "Did I ever really know you at all?" The man I married, the man I mourned, had never truly existed. And now I had to figure out who I was without him. 2 months after the funeral, I hit rock bottom. I'd been existing in a half-life, sleeping through most days, staying awake at night when memories haunted me less. My design business was on indefinite hiatus. I'd lost 15 pounds. My phone contained dozens of unanswered messages from concerned friends and family. I was jolted back to reality by an unexpected call from my doctor's office. I'd missed a scheduled checkup, and the nurse was concerned. Somehow, this mundane reminder of normal life, of a time when I kept appointments and took care of myself, broke through my fog. That afternoon, I forced myself to shower, dress in clean clothes, and walk to the small park near my house. It was the first time I'd been outside in days. The early spring air felt foreign against my skin, the normalcy of children playing and dogs barking creating a surreal contrast to my internal chaos. I sat on a bench, watching families and trying to remember what it felt like to be whole. My therapist, whom Melissa had practically dragged me to see, had suggested I needed to separate my grief over losing Thomas from my anger about his betrayal. "They're different losses," she'd explained. "The husband you thought you had, the marriage you believed in, and the future you planned, these are separate from the man who died." As I sat contemplating this distinction, a little boy ran past chasing a remote-controlled boat that had gotten away from him. He stumbled, falling onto the path just in front of my bench. Without thinking, I leaned forward to help him up. "You okay, buddy?" I asked, brushing gravel from his palms. He nodded bravely, fighting back tears. "My boat's getting away. Let's go get it," I offered, standing up. As we walked toward the pond where his boat had drifted to the edge, I glanced down at the boy and felt a jolt of recognition. It was Noah. He didn't recognize me. Our few interactions had always been brief and overshadowed by family gatherings where I was just another adult in the background. But I knew him instantly, seeing Thomas in every feature of his little face. We retrieved his boat, and Noah thanked me politely. "I'm getting better at controlling it," he explained seriously. "Dad gave it to me for Christmas, but I didn't get to use it much in winter." The casual reference to Thomas as Dad hit me like a physical blow. Of course, to Noah, Thomas was simply his father, a man who gave him presents, taught him to operate remote-controlled boats, and then suddenly died. Noah was innocent in all of this, exactly as Natalie had said. "It's a cool boat," I managed to say. "Your dad had good taste." Noah beamed. He said when I get better at this one, we could get a bigger one and race them. His smile faltered. "But now we can't." "I'm sorry about your dad," I said softly. Noah nodded, his eyes downcast. "Mom says he's in heaven. She says lots of people miss him." He looked up at me. "Did you know my dad?" The question hung in the air between us. This child, this piece of Thomas that lived on, had no idea who I was or what his existence had meant to my life. "Yes," I said finally. "I knew him." "Noah." Natalie's voice called from across the park. She jogged toward us, her face transforming from maternal concern to shock when she recognized me. "Sophia." "My boat got away," Noah explained. "This nice lady helped me." Natalie looked between us, clearly uncertain how to handle this unexpected encounter. "Thank you," she said cautiously. "It's a nice boat," I said, already backing away. "He's getting good at controlling it." "Sophia, wait." Natalie started, but I turned and walked quickly in the opposite direction, my heart pounding. I ended up walking for hours, circling neighborhoods I didn't know, trying to process the complexity of emotions that brief encounter had triggered. For the first time, Noah felt real to me, not just an abstract concept of betrayal, but a living, breathing child who had lost his father. A child who shared Thomas's blood, his smile, his mannerisms. When I finally returned home, exhausted and emotionally drained, I called Melissa. "I met Noah today," I said when she answered. "By accident, at the park." "Oh God," Melissa replied. "Are you okay? Do you need me to come over?" "No," I said, surprising myself. "I'm actually. I don't know." Something shifted. "He's just a little boy, Mel. A little boy who lost his dad. A little boy who's the product of your husband cheating on you with your sister," Melissa reminded me protectively. "Yes," I acknowledged. "But also just a child. Thomas's child." I paused, the realization hitting me. The child I always wanted to have with Thomas. There was silence on the other end of the line. "I think I need to talk to Natalie," I said finally. "Really talk to her. No lawyers, no family. Just us." "Are you sure?" Melissa asked cautiously. "It's only been 2 months. You're still grieving." "I'll always be grieving," I said. "But I can't stay in this limbo forever. I need answers. Real ones, not just what was in Thomas's letter or journal." "Do you want me to come with you?" Melissa offered. "No. This is something I need to do alone." I took a deep breath. I need to reclaim some control over my life. That night, I did something I hadn't done since the funeral. I made a plan. I wrote down every question I wanted to ask Natalie, every detail I needed to understand. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I was ready to know the full truth. The next morning, I texted Natalie. *, we need to talk. Just us. No lawyers, no family. Meet me at Riverdale Cafe tomorrow at 10 a.m. Her response came almost immediately. I'll be there. Thank you, Sophia. As I prepared to face my sister and the painful history between us, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months, a sense of purpose. Whatever happened next, I would face it on my terms, not as a victim of circumstances beyond my control. The woman who walked into that cafe the next day wasn't the same broken person who had been hiding in her house for months. I had showered and styled my hair, applied makeup, and worn a dress I'd designed myself years ago. Small steps toward reclaiming my identity. For the first time since Thomas's death, I felt like I might someday find my way back to the land of the living. The Riverdale Cafe was neutral territory. Neither of us had any particular history there. I arrived 15 minutes early, selecting a table in the back corner that offered privacy while still being in a public place. I ordered a black coffee and waited, rehearsing the questions I'd carefully prepared. When Natalie walked in, I barely recognized her. Like me, she had lost weight, her usually stylish appearance now subdued in simple jeans and a sweater. She spotted me immediately but approached hesitantly, as if expecting me to change my mind and send her away. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sliding into the chair across from mine. "I'm not doing this for you," I replied flatly. "I'm doing it for me. I need answers." Natalie nodded, ordering a tea when the waitress stopped by. When we were alone again, an uncomfortable silence stretched between us. "I have questions," I said finally, pulling out the notepad where I'd written them down. "I need you to be completely honest. No more lies, no sugarcoating, no protecting anyone's memory or reputation. Just the truth." "Okay," she agreed quietly. "Whatever you want to know." I took a deep breath. "Start from the beginning. You and Thomas. How did it happen?" Natalie stared into her tea for a long moment before meeting my eyes. "Thomas and I met in college before you did. Freshman year, we had the same economics class. We became friends and I fell for him. This was news to me. You never told me you knew Thomas before I did. Because by the time you met him, we were just casual friends. I never told him how I felt." She twisted her napkin nervously. "When you started dating him sophomore year, it was difficult. But I was happy for you. You were so perfect together. So when did this, just friends relationship become something more?" I demanded. "After you two broke up before your engagement," she explained. "I was heartbroken over my breakup with Justin. He'd cheated on me, ironically enough. Thomas was devastated about your fight. We ran into each other at a bar, started talking, drinking too much." "Spare me the details," I interrupted. "It was one night, Sophia. We both regretted it immediately. The next morning, we agreed it was a terrible mistake and would never happen again. And it didn't." She looked down. 2 months later, you two got back together. He proposed again, you were planning your wedding, and I was trying to forget it ever happened. Then you found out you were pregnant." Natalie nodded. I was terrified. I'd started dating Brian by then. When I told him about the pregnancy, he was supportive. When I confessed it might not be his, she trailed off. He said he loved me enough to raise the child as his own if I was willing to never contact the real father. "So you lied to everyone," I said. "Including Thomas." "Yes," she admitted. "I convinced myself it was for the best. You were happy, planning your wedding. Thomas had moved on. Why ruin everything over one mistake?" "When did Thomas find out the truth?" I asked, though I already knew from his journal. "When Noah was 13 months old, he developed that rare blood condition. The doctors needed family medical history to rule out complications. Brian's family had no history of blood disorders, but when I mentioned Thomas's family," she sighed. "I had to tell Thomas then. He insisted on a DNA test, which confirmed what I already knew. And he decided to be part of Noah's life without telling me. He wanted to tell you," Natalie insisted. "That first day, when I called him about Noah's condition, he said he needed to tell you everything. I begged him not to. I was terrified of losing Brian, of destroying your marriage, of what it would do to our family. So instead, you all orchestrated this elaborate deception. Year after year." "It started small," she explained. "Thomas wanted to help with medical bills. Then he wanted to see Noah. Then it was monthly visits, disguised as business trips. It snowballed until he was trapped in a lie too big to escape." "Did you love him?" I asked, the question that had been haunting me. Natalie's eyes filled with tears. "Not the way you're asking. I loved him as Noah's father, as the man my sister married. But romantically? No, Sophia. What happened between us was alcohol and grief and terrible judgment. It was never about love." I nodded, oddly relieved. "Tell me about Noah and Thomas. Their relationship." Natalie's expression softened. Thomas adored him from the moment he saw him. He was careful at first, visiting as mommy's friend until Noah was old enough to understand more complex relationships. By the time Noah was 4, he knew Thomas was his biological father, though he still called Brian Dad too, until Brian moved out last year. Does Noah understand what's happening now? With the will, the inheritance. He knows Thomas left money for his education and future. He doesn't understand the details or the complications with you. She hesitated. He asks about you sometimes. He knows you were married to his father, and he's curious. The thought of Noah wondering about me sent an unexpected pang through my heart. Tell me about Thomas's last days, I said, shifting topics. You said he was planning to tell me everything. Natalie pulled out her phone, scrolling to find something. He sent me this text the night before the accident. She handed me the phone. The message read, "I can't do this anymore, Nat. The lies are destroying me. I'm telling Sophia everything tomorrow night. It's long overdue. I've updated my will and written her a letter explaining everything. She deserves the truth, whatever happens after. Then he called me the morning of the accident," Natalie continued. "He said you two had argued about trying another round of IVF. He couldn't bear watching you go through that again while hiding the truth. He was on his way to work, but planned to come home early to talk to you." I closed my eyes, remembering our last conversation. The argument over breakfast about trying another round of IVF. His strange insistence that we consider different paths to parenthood. The way he couldn't meet my eyes. "He never got the chance," I whispered. "No," Natalie agreed softly. The accident happened 3 hours later. We sat in silence for a moment, both lost in the tragedy of timing. "There's something else you should see," Natalie said eventually, reaching into her bag. She pulled out a worn leather journal. This was Thomas's. He kept it in his apartment in New York, where he stayed when visiting Noah. I found it when I was clearing out his things. I accepted the journal cautiously. "Why show me this now?" "Because you need to understand that while Thomas made terrible choices, his love for you was real." She stood up. "I'll give you some privacy to read it. I'll be outside when you're ready to talk more." Alone at the table, I opened the journal with trembling hands. Unlike the notebook I'd found in his office, which focused primarily on Noah, this journal contained Thomas's raw, unfiltered thoughts about our marriage, his guilt, and his internal struggle. Sophia designed a nursery concept today for a client. The joy on her face while showing me the sketches broke my heart. She would be such an amazing mother. The weight of my secret gets heavier every day. Another negative pregnancy test. Sophia tried to be strong but cried all night. I held her, feeling like the world's biggest fraud. How can I comfort her over the child we can't have when I have a son she doesn't know about? Noah asked why he can't come to my house in Boston today. How do I explain to a 5-year-old that his father lives a double life? That I'm too much of a coward to introduce him to the woman I love more than anything? Sophia suggested adoption today. The irony is unbearable. I'm denying her the chance to be a mother while being a part-time father to Noah. What kind of monster am I? I watch Sophia sleeping beside me and wonder if she would ever forgive me if she knew. Every year that passes makes the revelation more impossible. I've built our marriage on quicksand, and I'm terrified of the day it all collapses. The final entry was dated the night before the accident. I can't live this lie anymore. The weight of it is crushing me. Tomorrow, I tell Sophia everything. I've updated my will, written her a letter, prepared for the worst. She may never forgive me, I wouldn't blame her, but she deserves to know the truth. Whatever happens next, at least I'll finally be living honestly. I love her too much to keep lying. Tears streamed down my face as I closed the journal. The man in these pages was the Thomas the First knew, flawed, human, trapped in a web of his own making, but genuinely tormented by his decisions. It didn't excuse what he'd done, but it helped me understand the complexity of the situation he'd created. When Natalie returned, I wiped my eyes and handed back the journal. "Thank you for showing me this," I said quietly. "What happens now?" she asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "I'm still processing everything. But..." I took a deep breath. "I'd like to meet Noah. Properly, I mean. As his aunt. He deserves to know who I am. Natalie's eyes widened in surprise. Are you sure? No, I said honestly. But he's Thomas's son. And despite everything, that means something to me. We talked for another hour, establishing boundaries and expectations. I made it clear that forgiveness wasn't on the table yet, maybe not for a very long time. But I was willing to work toward understanding for Noah's sake if nothing else. As we prepared to leave, Natalie hesitated. There's one more thing you should know. Thomas left a personal item for you with his parents. They've been waiting for the right time to give it to you. What is it? I don't know exactly, she replied. But his mother said it was something he'd been working on for years. Something important. Another piece of Thomas, another revelation waiting to be discovered. I wasn't sure if I was ready for more surprises, but I was tired of living in ignorance. Tell them I'll see them next week, I decided. It's time I heard their side of the story too. As I walked home from the cafe, I felt lighter somehow. Not healed, not even close, but as if I'd taken the first step on a long journey toward whatever my new normal would be. For the first time since Thomas's death, I could imagine a future that wasn't defined entirely by betrayal and grief. 6 months after Thomas's funeral, I unlocked the door to my new apartment, grocery bags balanced precariously in one arm. The space was smaller than the house I'd shared with Thomas, but it was mine alone, a fresh start in a different neighborhood, away from the memories that had haunted me. I'd sold our house as stipulated in the will, the process both painful and liberating. Watching strangers walk through what had once been my sanctuary was difficult, but the day I handed over the keys, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Half the proceeds went into Noah's trust fund as Thomas had directed. The other half gave me the financial freedom to rebuild my life on my terms. My interior design business was slowly coming back to life. I'd started with small projects for understanding clients, gradually rebuilding my confidence and creativity. Recently, I'd signed my first major contract since Thomas's death, redesigning the executive floor of a downtown law firm. The old Sophia would have celebrated with Thomas. The new Sophia opened a bottle of wine with Melissa instead. Therapy had become a lifeline, a safe space to untangle the complex emotions of grief, betrayal, and unexpected connections. My therapist, Dr. Rivera, helped me understand that healing wasn't linear. That some days would still bring me to my knees with sorrow, while others would offer glimpses of joy I'd thought I'd never feel again. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, she told me in a recent session. It means integrating what happened into your life story without letting it define your future. As I put away groceries, my phone chimed with a text from Natalie. * Noah's science fair is tomorrow at 4. He'd love for you to come if you're free. * Our relationship remained complicated. The sister bond that had once seemed unbreakable was fundamentally altered, perhaps permanently. But we were establishing a new dynamic, cautious and respectful, centered around the boy who connected us. My first formal meeting with Noah had been awkward but meaningful. We'd met at a neutral location, a children's museum where he could be distracted by exhibits when the adult conversation grew too intense. Natalie had explained that I was his aunt, and Thomas had been my husband. So you were married to my biological dad, he'd asked, his 7-year-old mind working to understand these complex relationships. Yes, I'd answered simply. For 8 years. Were you mad at him? Mom says adults sometimes keep secrets that hurt other people. The innocent question had caught me off guard. Yes, I was mad at him. I still am sometimes. But that doesn't mean he didn't love both of us in his own way. Noah had nodded seriously. I miss him. Even though I only saw him sometimes. I miss him too, I'd admitted. And it was true, despite everything. I missed the Thomas the first thought I knew, the future we'd planned, the life we'd built. Since that first meeting, Noah and I had developed a cautious relationship. I wasn't ready to be a regular presence in his life, but monthly outings to museums, parks, or movies gave us space to know each other without expectations. I was careful never to question him about Thomas or put him in the middle of adult conflicts. I texted Natalie back, * I'll be there. Should I bring anything? * Her reply came quickly, * just yourself. He's nervous, and having you there would mean a lot. Asterisk, the complex truth was that Noah had become important to me. Not as a replacement for the child Thomas, and I never had, but as a connection to Thomas that wasn't tainted by lies. Noah's existence had been the center of the deception, but he himself was innocent, a child who had lost his father and was trying to make sense of the complicated adult world around him. Later that evening, I visited Thomas's parents, a monthly dinner that had become part of my new routine. Like my relationship with Natalie, this connection had been strained to breaking after the revelations. But eventually, I'd recognized that they too were caught in an impossible situation. Torn between loyalty to their son, love for their grandson, and affection for me. Noah's science project turned out wonderfully, Margaret, Thomas's mother, told me over dessert. He is Thomas's analytical mind. I nodded, no longer flinching at these comparisons. I'm going to the fair tomorrow to see it. We'll be there too, James, Thomas's father said. Perhaps we could all go for ice cream afterward, if you're comfortable with that. Let's see how it goes, I replied, neither committing nor refusing. After dinner, Margaret brought out a small photo album. We found more pictures of Thomas as a child. We thought you might like to see them, and perhaps share them with Noah someday. These gestures of inclusion were their way of acknowledging my place in their family's complicated story. I accepted the album with a quiet, thank you, knowing I might not be ready to look through it yet, but appreciating the intention behind it. On the anniversary of Thomas's death, I took a personal day. Natalie had suggested we visit the cemetery together with Noah, but I declined. I needed this day to myself, to honor the complicated grief I still carried. I brought white roses, Thomas's favorite, and sat beside his grave for a long time, finally having the conversation I'd been rehearsing for months. I'm still angry with you, I told the headstone. I might always be. You took away my choice, my agency, my truth. You let me believe in a marriage that wasn't what I thought it was. You watched me suffer through failed IVF treatments while hiding your own child. I wiped away tears. But I'm starting to understand the impossible situation you created for yourself. The journal helped me see how trapped you felt, how the lies compounded until you couldn't find a way out. A gentle breeze rustled the trees overhead. I'm getting to know Noah. He's a remarkable kid, smart, kind, curious. He has your smile, your laugh. Sometimes it hurts to see so much of you in him, but mostly it's a comfort, knowing a piece of you lives on. I placed the roses against his headstone. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive you, Thomas. But I'm learning to live with what happened. I'm building a new life, not the one we planned, but one that's authentically mine. As I stood to leave, I felt a sense of release, not completion, but progress. The conversation wasn't over, but it had begun. 1 year after Thomas's death, my new interior design studio opened in downtown Boston. The small celebration included Melissa, a few loyal clients, and, to everyone's surprise, Natalie and Noah. They stayed briefly, Noah presenting me with a handmade card congratulating me on my new business. Thomas would be proud of you, Natalie said quietly as they prepared to leave. Perhaps, I replied. But more importantly, I'm proud of myself. After they left, Melissa raised her champagne glass. To new beginnings. And to truth, I added. However painful. The journey hadn't been linear. There were still days when anger consumed me, when I questioned everything about my marriage, when the betrayal felt as fresh as the day I discovered it. But there were also days of peace, of purpose, of genuine connection with the people who remained in my life. I'd learned that forgiveness wasn't a single decision but a daily choice. Sometimes I could make that choice, other times, the hurt was too raw. And that was okay. Healing had its own timeline, one that couldn't be rushed or forced. The woman I was before Thomas's death, before the revelations that shattered my reality, was gone forever. In her place was someone stronger, more cautious perhaps, but also more authentic. Someone who understood that love and betrayal could coexist, that good people could make terrible choices, that truth, however painful, was always preferable to comforting lies. As I looked around my new studio, at the life I was building from the ashes of what I'd lost, I realized that Thomas's final gift to me, unintentional though it was, had been the opportunity to discover who I truly was without him. Not just his widow, not a victim of betrayal, but Sophia Mitchell, designer, friend, survivor, and yes, even aunt to the child who connected us all. The truth had indeed set me free, though not in the way I could have ever imagined. What's the most painful betrayal you've ever experienced, and how did you find the strength to move forward? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this journey resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life stories of resilience and healing. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes our greatest strength is revealed in our most broken moments. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.